Hi, everybody. How's it going? In this mini lecture, we are going to go over just a quick reading strategy, a quick note taking strategy that will, I think, be very helpful as you seek to make sense of articles or essays or book chapters that you're reading. It's a very powerful strategy. It's called a reverse outline. Now, what a reverse outline is essentially you're making kind of a skeletal outline of a piece that has already been written. You're outlining it, but in reverse. Like it's already been written. What you're looking to do is kind of break it down, break the article, the chapter, the essay, whatever, down into what is each paragraph doing? How is it structured? And what this does is it gives you a really great look at how authors have created and structured their arguments, the ideas that they are working with, and how they build their arguments. So what I have done here is I've put together a reverse outline. I'm using an example from the free online book called Bad Ideas About Writing, and I'm using a chapter titled Failure is Not an Option by Allison D. Carr. I put this together, and I have the chapter over here on the left. I'm using a program called Evernote, which is it's a note-taking software that I'm particularly fond of. If you are interested in learning more, there's loads of information out there about various note-taking softwares, including Evernote. So what I generally tend to do is I start my reverse outline by putting just a full citation information up at the top of the page. That way, whenever I need to put together a bibliography or a works cited page, I have it right there. And then what I do is just kind of go paragraph by paragraph. And I like to use a combination of quotes but mostly really trying to articulate in my own words what is the main idea of every paragraph in this essay, in this article, book chapter, whatever. So you can see here what I've done is I divided this into sections. You're not always going to have the headings that Allison Carr has here, but I've divided it out into sections, and each bullet point is each first level bullet point is one of the paragraphs. So Carr starts in this first paragraph. She's talking about how the dominant cultural narrative surrounding failure is that, we generally tend to think about failure as being bad and unacceptable. And then in that next paragraph, she offers kind of an alternative that failure is only good if we learn from it. And then at the end of this introductory segment, she stops and says, okay, actually, no. That dominant cultural narrative surrounding failure, it's wrong. And we need to embrace failure as an important element of learning how to do something well. And then we go on to the next section. And she opens up, with a history of failure. So we've got a couple of paragraphs here. So in this first paragraph under history of failure, she points out how our current conception of failure is rooted in this shift from a more industrial economy, or from an agricultural economy to a more industrial economy, when literacy became necessary for a lot of people. And then she builds on that to say that, to draw from scholar John Trimber, saying that literacy became a way to regulate society where literate people were good and illiterate people were bad. What I did here, I wanted to elaborate on this idea a little bit because it's important to kind of point out that this idea also works in reverse, that bad people, quote unquote bad people, were the ones who are illiterate, and quote unquote good people were the literate ones. And she finishes out this history of failure by saying that, our current culture of standardized testing, including No Child Left Behind and Race to the Top, have really reinforced these notions of failure being not just signs of being morally good or morally bad, but failure being a sign of immorality or stupidity or inadequacy, and that this culture of testing has really reinforced a lot of these notions. In the next section, an alternative view, Carr says that, okay, well, actually there's this integral connection between failure and risk, creativity and innovation, not to mention emotional and cognitive resilience. Also, I want to point out that I'm also providing page numbers here in my notes. Again, making it easy for me. If I ever want to use this quote, I know exactly where that quote is coming from. And in this first paragraph, she provides a couple of examples of how failure is this integral connection. And she gives a couple of examples of these like world-changing discoveries like cornflakes and penicillin and oral contraception, and finishes the paragraph by saying that, the tech industry has actually done a pretty good job already of embracing this notion that failure is actually good, and it's adopted a healthier outlook on failure and its relationship to innovation. In the next paragraph, she talks about how writing is something that we learn slowly and that we have to fail before we get good at it. And then in the following paragraph, she gives a number of examples of prominent writers who have talked about their failure. Writers including Ta-Nehisi Coates, Stephen King, Junot Diaz, Jane Austen, Joyce Carol Oates, and Henry James. She closes out the section with 2 more paragraphs on how writing scholars, we've come to understand that, writing is a process and that failing is just kind of part of that process, and finishes that section with a paragraph that says that we, people who teach writing, need to change the way that we talk about failure to reflect the fact that we know that it's part of this process. Writing is a process that often involves trying something, writing something down, and discovering what we actually mean as we are writing through it. In the closing section, making failure an option, it's just a couple of paragraphs where in that opening paragraph, Carr points out that failure is an integral part of learning how to do anything, not just writing. And she draws on primarily Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours theory. It says that, if we do anything for 10,000 hours, that 10,000 hours is the amount of time that we need in order to truly master, truly become good at anything. And then finishes out her essay, her article, chapter, whatever you want to call it, by claiming, reinforcing this argument that we as writing teachers, we need to change the way that we talk about failure when we teach writing, and we need to embrace it as an important part of learning how to write, because it is an essential part of learning how to write. Failure is an option. It's not just an option, it's something that has to happen. So I hope that this was a helpful video. I find this strategy to be particularly effective when you are trying to make sense of longer, more complex pieces. It's a great way to get kind of a bird's eye view of an article, an essay, a chapter, a book, what have you. This really, you can scale this up or down as much as you need to. I do the same thing for books, where like I'll have some notes on a chapter, and kind of going through like that instead of paragraph by paragraph. But yeah, I hope this was helpful, and good luck with any of your reading assignments, and I will see you all in the next video.